From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Tuesday, April 4th, 2017. Silver is trading at $18.29 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,256 per ounce. Bitcoin is trading at 1.4 cents, and the average price of Bitcoin is $1,151. Antiwar.com reports a series of airstrikes were reported against the city of Duma on Monday, one of the biggest rebel-held suburbs of Damascus, hitting residential areas and killing a number of people, with rebels reporting at least 22 killed and dozens wounded. Official statements from the Syrian army claimed they'd hit missile launchers and killed an even larger number of people, describing the casualties as scores of terrorists. Rebels disputed this, claiming that only civilians were killed and that there were no terrorists. The Syrian military has been trying to whittle down what was once a substantial amount of rebel territory around the capital city, and eastern Ghouta is one of the last regions still containing a lot of rebels, with Duma by far the biggest city they retain. Over the past couple of weeks, rebels from the surrounding area have managed to sneak into Damascus itself and get into gun battles with security forces, which seems to have the military once again ratcheting up the pressure of rebel territories, likely hoping to force them to agree to more evacuation deals.
For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co.
UPI reports the U.S. Supreme Court on Monday ruled that criminal courts can factor in a convict's prior sentence when weighing punishments on another charge. The High Court ruled unanimously on the issue by a vote of 8-0, which hands a victory to opponents of mandatory minimum sentences and proponents of greater judicial flexibility. The matter reached the U.S. Supreme Court in the case of Dean v. United States concerning an Iowa man, Levon Dean, who was convicted and sentenced on robbery and firearms charges. Dean's attorney said his punishment, 30 years on the firearm count and 3 years for robbery, was excessive because the judge simply imposed mandatory minimums on both counts when the mandatory term for the firearms charge was sufficient for both crimes. The government's position on the issue was that the courts had to be able to determine sentences for each offense without regard for prior sentences. In delivering the opinion, Chief Justice John Roberts pointed out that no federal sentencing specifically instructs judges to ignore other penalties when determining a convict's punishment. Roberts wrote in the 11-page ruling, "There is no reason that other factors may not also be considered when determining prison sentences for each individual offense in a multi-count case." The ruling continued, "Sentencing courts have long enjoyed discretion in the sort of information they may consider when setting an appropriate sentence. In making their determination, the justices cited a broad command that instructs courts to impose a sentence sufficient but not greater than necessary to comply with 4 identified purposes of sentencing: just punishment, deterrence, protection of the public, and rehabilitation. In particular, the High Court ruled that the government position disregards the concept of deterrence, which is at the root of certain punishments, particularly mandatory minimums. The court said that Dean will not be released from prison until well after his 50th birthday because of the convictions. Surely bears on whether still more incarceration is necessary to protect the public. Likewise, in considering the need for the sentence imposed to afford adequate deterrence, the district court could not reasonably ignore the deterrent effect of Dean's 30-year mandatory minimum. Opponents to mandatory minimums have long argued that such an inflexible method of doling out prison time does not work as a deterrent and overcrowds jails and prisons with people serving more time than they deserve.
You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for precious metals or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. That's shop.fppradio.com.
Reuters reports President Donald Trump on Monday signed a repeal of Obama-era broadband privacy rules over strong objections of privacy advocates. The bill repeals regulations adopted in October by the FCC under the Obama administration. The rules had not yet taken effect, but would have required internet service providers to obtain consumer consent before using precise geolocation, financial information, health information, children's information, and web browsing history for advertising and marketing purposes. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.